Welcome to American Reacts. In this video, we're going to be reacting to, are these Russian stereotypes actually true? Let's find out. Let's get into it.
You guys left tons of stereotypes about Russians, and now it's time to expose which ones are true, false, or more complicated.
This is going to be interesting because in my home state of Alaska, we actually have a pretty decent Russian population here. So I'm pretty familiar with the Russians, and they're pretty traditional here, though. I would assume, not even I would assume, but I know that they are definitely Americanized. But they are still pretty traditional when it comes to religion and being very fluent in their native language.
Let's start with the most popular stereotype known in the whole world. Russians love and always drink vodka. Now, I think that for most
Honestly, if I had to guess, I think they probably have a favorite drink, just like Americans, and probably drink that. Just like there's a lot of Americans that love vodka, there's a lot of Americans that love whiskey. I'm sure there's a lot of Russians that drink whiskey as well. Um, I think the stereotype just kind of comes down to a lot of vodka brands being Russian, so a lot of Americans associate that with Russians. But that's kind of what I think.
Russians, vodka would actually be the last resort. In reality, a truly iconic drink for Russians is beer. I think that stereotype about vodka started back in the Soviet Union when everything was super expensive, including alcohol, and vodka was one of the cheapest options. But since then, the time has changed, especially Russian women don't tolerate vodka very good because it is so harsh, but I can't say all. Many Russians embrace the stereotype, maybe as a joke, to just
That happens here as well. There's a lot of Russians that really lean into the vodka stereotype. But like she said, they drink beer. I remember not too long out of high school, my buddy Petro, who was a Russian, we would go get 30 racks of Budweiser and just all sorts of stuff. And we were of age, definitely 21. Um, but yeah, that was a good time. That was really a good time. But I always remember him getting Budweiser. So, yeah, I guess you can't really associate just because the stereotypes say so.
to prove how tough you can be. And at many parties, this one game became super popular. So it goes like this. We have several glasses in front of you, well, some filled with vodka and some with just water. And so you come up to the table when it's your turn and you pick a glass and you have no idea which one you're gonna get. One person usually acts as a judge and you have to confuse the judge, no matter what it is. If you get water, you're supposed to act like it is vodka, and if you happen to get vodka, well, good luck to you. Because
That actually sounds like a pretty fun game. Trying to hold your composure while trying to drink like straight vodka. I absolutely hate vodka. I'm whiskey through and through. It needs to be an American bourbon or just a plain old whiskey. I like Canadian. We get a lot of Canadian whiskeys here in Alaska. I think everybody knows Crown Royal. We got a cheaper option called R&R, Rich and Rare. A lot of my buddies I play video games with down in the States, they've never heard of Rich and Rare. So let me know, have you heard of Rich and Rare? And what is your favorite alcoholic beverage?
you have to drink it with a straight face. And so, of course, you win if you get to successfully confuse the judge. I wonder if this kind of game exists here in the US, because from all the party movies
I've never heard of that. Let me know if you've heard of that game, but I've never heard of that game. I'm sure somebody in the States have played that before.
that I've seen, usually you guys also drink beer and play like beer pong and stuff like that. But still, nowadays, beer is just as cheap as vodka and super, super accessible. We actually have lots of beer stores with this fresh craft beer right from these huge barrels, and it's not like a bar. You cannot sit there, but you can get this fresh beer and you can take it home, and it is so
I wonder how common that is, because I know obviously we have the kegs here, but that'd be pretty cool if we had, like stores that had nothing but craft beer or uh, kegs you can take home. I'm sure down in the States there's places like that, but at least where I'm from, I've never seen anything like that.
Ridiculously cheap, and they're like on every corner, which actually touches another stereotype about alcoholism. Yes, it is a big problem because, it is so cheap to be an alcoholic. I don't
It's a problem here too, for sure. Not just in my state, but I think the entire country.
think it's as affordable here in the US, from what I can tell. Especially drinking in bars would cost a fortune. So maybe
I don't know. I've known a lot of alcoholics in my life. I think it's pretty cheap to be an alcoholic, unfortunately.
that saves you. Honestly, I've traveled a little bit to different cities in Russia, and I could see how habits and behavior changes. Basically, the worse living conditions are, the more alcoholics you're gonna see in those
That's
cities.
here too.
And yes, a lot
Exactly the
of
same.
Russian women are tough because of that. Because of such a difference in female and male population in Russia, where we have a lot more women, uh, of course, not all, but a lot of Russian women have this mindset of at least I'm not alone. And they're happy to keep pretty much any man, even an alcoholic, just so that they don't stay single. And this is very sad, but a lot of women choose to live this way.
That's
Next one,
unfortunate.
I hear literally all the time. Anytime I tell people that I'm from Russia, they immediately think that I am immune to cold weather. And let me just tell you, that is not the case.
Honestly, I think people acclimate to whatever climate that they're in, or if they've been in a certain climate for a while. For example, I live in Alaska. I've lived in Alaska my entire life. I've got a pretty good cold tolerance. Once I'm used to the winter temperatures, 20 degrees, 28 degrees is pretty warm to me, and I can get away with wearing a sweater as long as I'm keeping some movement in, as long as there's not a lot of wind. Um, Once it gets up to like above freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it's it's pretty much good to go. Uh, but yeah, I honestly think it's just you know how you deal with weather is based on how long you've been in a certain climate. Because when I went down to Washington a couple summers ago, it was too hot for me. Washington State compared to Alaska, it was just too hot. The heat just felt like it was cooking me. It felt like when I went into the shade, it wasn't good enough. And my left arm got burned because I did a lot of driving. And I was ready to go back home by the time I reached the end of my 10 days. So it's all about, I think, where you've been at for a while. And I think if I was in Washington for some time, I'd definitely get used to it. But I was not used to it in the 10 days I was there.
At all. At the moment, we're having this cold front again in Florida. And I genuinely believed that it would be so nice to get a break from hot weather. And boy, was I wrong. Because we've been in the 40s and even 30s for like a week now. And I just can't deal with it anymore. I'm done. I want my hot weather back. I'm even wearing this thermal shirt in the house because it is so freezing
I'd be wearing shorts and and a tank top or a t-shirt for sure. I'd still be enjoying the warm weather.
cold. But yeah, is it cold throughout Russia? For real? Well, for the northern parts of Russia, this statement would be
Come on. Russia's such a big country. Like, you gotta be a fool to think the entire country is just cold all the time.
true. The rest of the country lives with four changing seasons. For example, I come from Volgograd, which is a city in the south of Russia, and we have super dry and hot summers. And even for a few years, we've had very mild winters, but this year something crazy is going on, like all over the world. The climate is changing, and so the cold was brought back. And my family shared that they haven't seen that much snow in so long.
It's pretty interesting. Let me know if you've seen the crazy snow videos from Russia this year. And then let me know what state you're in and if you were hit by any of those storms. I know one of you guys were. Um, yeah, I mean, this winter has not been a normal winter for Alaska, meaning that we didn't get a lot of snow like we normally do. We got more than last year, but last year it snowed like 3 times, and it was like dirt most of the winter. It was just frozen dirt on the ground.
Hmm, a Russian language sounds angry. Желаю всем хорошего дня и суперского настроения на весь день. I don't know. What do you think? But I think it sounds harsh because
I think it's like German to me. Both of them, I think just the way the words are pronounced can sound a little angry. But I also think like Spanish in a way can sound a little angry. But I think it all depends on you know how I guess just the language really. I mean I can't really explain it.
of all the consonants that we have, and we can have a lot of them in a row, which can make us sound pretty harsh, like we're mad at something all the time. But true story, every time I was talking to my mom in Russian, my American spouse thought that we were in a fight every single time. And I'm like, no, she was actually complimenting me or whatever.
I've seen that happen with Spanish speaking people getting real animated into a conversation and you think they're in an argument.
Next one, are Russians really depressed and pessimistic by nature? I wouldn't say that absolutely everyone is depressed, but in Russia, being realistic is much more valued than being optimistic. We're taught from the young age that we should not get our hopes up and that we should have a very down-to-earth outlook on life. We're just used to harsh living conditions, and like I've mentioned before, a lot of people still survive. They don't really live. And relying on my personal experience, I couldn't agree more with.
Honestly, that sounds the more I watch these videos of Europeans talk about how things work in their country, the more I realize there's a lot of that same mindset. Just do enough that you need to do so you don't have more than you need. Keep your head down. I've heard people from Australia, the UK, France, and now Russia talk about, they don't like to see others do good, or they'll try to cut each other down when they see somebody doing well. Whereas in America, you hear all the time, and same thing from all these different countries, thinking that our smiles are fake, our small talk is fake. Um, and it's interesting to hear them all say, there's a certain sense of drive to strive for something better. People push their friends to do better, to be better. And there's really that idea of you can be whatever you want that's really implanted in your head from a very young age. And I think with the way the founding fathers founded the country and, really pushed for it and took it, I think that it really has stuck with the American psyche since then and continues to be part of our culture and our identity.
This comment, architecture and in general your surroundings, environment that you live in really impacts your mood a lot, especially in wintertime when everything is gray and you don't see sun that often. Every time you open a window,
This happens here in Alaska. In the winter, we have about 4 hour, almost 5 hour days with really long dusks and dawns. And in the summer, we have about 20-hour days. Some parts of the state, it just gets basically dusk, and then the lighting gets a little low, like when it's kind of blue out, because the lighting is real low, and then the sun comes back up. And it doesn't get dark at all. But in the winter, it's pretty much sun finally comes up all the way at 10, and it goes down below the horizon by 4.
you see this gray blocks of buildings and then just like dirt and bare trees. It just pretty much kills all the motivation.
I can
What
see how that
really
would add
made
to it.
me depressed is going to the university every day And not because I hated studying, but because Volgograd is such a long city. It's incredibly stretched out. And so for me to get to my university from home, it would take me at least about an hour. So back and forth, that's like 2 hours a day that you're wasting. And guys, when you look out of the window, for the first 20 minutes, what you see is kamış and nothing else.
Is this supposed to be weeds or reeds? Must be. It's 2 keys over from R, so I'm not sure. Yeah, let me know. What do you think? Is this supposed to be weeds?
And then you start seeing these small wooden houses that are so old, they're literally falling.
I've seen them. I like to look at Google Maps and look at Russian cities, and where at least wherever I can drop a pin. And they definitely have those little tiny, stereotypical houses, I suppose. And what really reminds me of is a video game DayZ. It's the exact same houses in that game.
Apart, and then you get past that part and all you see is those gray blocks again, and of course the whole experience gets even worse if you're on the bus, usually smashed so much by the people that you can hardly breathe. That
Sounds
really
like an
could be
American
one
bus
of
to
the
me.
reasons why we don't smile. This probably is one of my favorites. Russians party hardcore. It is true, I can absolutely confirm.
I mean, I think everybody parties hardcore, right? Do the Russians really party harder than our good old boys here in the South? Our good old rednecks. We got some rednecks up here in Alaska too. Yeah, I remember partying pretty hard. Uh, would have to have a party off between a true Russian and a true American good old boy redneck.
It. I think partly because of how hard life is, and anytime that we get the chance to just let go and forget about all the worries, we party hard. We've learned to make the most out of a present moment and get everything out of here and now. Is driving in Russia really that bad? Well, let me just tell you a quick story. When we were in Mexico, before I even came here, my American spouse was so shocked.
I never even thought about that. I've seen some crazy videos of Russian accidents and stuff like that, but honestly, I hadn't really seen any day-to-day driving, and I mean, some pretty crazy driving videos here in America too. So I didn't really put any thought into this.
And terrified about driving in Mexico. Look, everyone is speeding and cutting and driving so recklessly. And I'm like, uh, I don't know what you're talking about. Seems pretty normal to me. That's exactly how we drive in Russia, so I'm not sure what you mean.
I also think this depends on where you go in the country as well. How people drive. How do people drive in your area?
I really didn't notice anything extraordinary. I'm really used to that, but I guess for a lot of foreigners, that would be a huge surprise. Before I go, I just want to say thank you for 5,000 subscribers. I truly appreciate every comment and every person that takes time to share their perspective with me. And a huge thank you to everyone who supports me through YouTube Thanks and Buy Me a Coffee. It really helps me continue creating and sharing this journey. And no pressure at all, just being here already means so much. So today I just wanted to focus on the main stereotypes about Russians, but I will be making a second part to this video, answering any of your
I'll have
questions
to
about
react that as well.
Russians and life in Russia. So comment below anything that you want to know and I will try to reply in my next video. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one.
That was an interesting watch. Like I said, we got a lot of Russians here in Alaska, and I honestly, at the end of the day, I think humans are humans, right? You're gonna have cultural differences depending on where you're from, but I think majority of what we do, how we think, and how we act is pretty similar. Aside from some of the things that have been driven into us based on our surrounding culture, but that's just how I see things. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe. Even if you didn't like it, leave it a thumbs up. I'm just joking. Leave it a thumbs down if you didn't like it. But subscribe, help support the channel for free. And if you want to watch the video that we just watched, or go to Anna Tries America and support her channel, the link for this video will be in the description below. I'll catch you guys in the next one.